guys, so today I'm gonna do a little pregnancy Q&A. Sorry for the glare on my glasses. I've tried to move every sort of way and it's not working right. So we're just gonna have to deal with that. But I have some questions that I got like over 2 weeks ago, but I have not had time to film. So I'm just gonna be like cranking out videos today. So if you see a lot of videos from me, like not necessarily back to back, but like several days in a row, that's what it is. I'm just behind, so I just need to kind of catch up. There's been a lot of stuff going on. I might do like a life update thing. I don't know. You guys see my vlogs, so I could pretty much talk about everything in there. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get started with all of the questions. First question, what was your TTC journey like? Longer than expected. So I have 3 videos all on my like TTC journey and what that was kind of like, but yeah, it was definitely longer than expected. So it started with a miscarriage in December of 2019, and then most of last year I was TTC up until like August when I actually got pregnant. So yeah, a little bit longer than expected, but I'm like 97% sure that I have endometriosis, so that would explain why. And I figured it might take a little bit longer because I've always had like hormonal issues and stuff like that, so I'm like, I wasn't convinced that everything was just like okay, because I don't think that's normal to have the kind of symptoms that I have and something not be wrong or like abnormal. So yeah, for that reason it took a little bit longer than expected. Also, this is gonna get a little informative. If you're not comfortable hearing about pregnancy, intimacy, stuff like that, just probably don't watch this, but I'm guessing if you're watching a pregnancy Q&A, you're fine with that. So next question, can you have sex during the 2-week wait? Yes. I don't think I did. Not for any particular reason, it just kind of worked out that way. I think it's only recommended not to if you're doing like IVF or something like that, but obviously you can like ask your doctor if you have like an OB that you go to or whatever that looks like. I didn't, it wasn't like by choice like or anything. I think so. Are you going to a hospital or birth center? This is a 2-part question. I'm going to a birth center. I'm obsessed with my birth center. I have a whole video on why I chose to go the birth center route and go like the unmedicated route, which a lot of people think that I'm like crazy for. I'm going to a birth center. There was a lot of things that impacted that decision. Like I said, there's a whole video on that. I'll try to link all of this stuff below. I'm terrible about linking stuff. Also, second part to that question, did you get any flack from your family about your decision? Not at all. My family is very like natural minded anyway. So they were like super supportive and everything. It's funny because the only flack that I got was mostly from like co-workers, I would say, slash people who like don't know me as well. When I would tell them I'm going to like a birth center, they would ask like, oh, like what does that mean? I'm like, well, they have like what is medically necessary to deliver a baby. They don't have like medication and stuff like that. And I got a lot of crazy looks. I got a lot of people saying that I was like so brave and like they could never do it and they can't imagine like doing that and all that stuff, which really just made me like more nervous. Like I really hate when people say that because it makes me feel like I can't do it, and like I'm not indestructible, like I'm still a person. So when I have someone telling me, another person telling me that they could never do it, in my mind that gives me like, well, what makes me think I can, kind of feelings, and it just makes me anxious, which I get anxious over like most things. So one of the biggest things I know I need to work on going into unmedicated birth is my mindset. So I'm going to make a whole video about how I'm preparing for unmedicated birth. But a big thing is my mindset, because I get anxiety so much. So I'm trying to fix my way of thinking to, instead of when I hear birth, being scared and thinking it's something that I can't do, to something positive, and that like, oh yeah, like I can do that. My body's gonna do it anyway, which I'm kind of like in the middle now. So something that I'm working on. But yeah, I didn't get any flack from my family, more so people who didn't know me as much. And it wasn't necessarily like flack as much as like shock. But even still, it kind of bothers me when people say that, because I'm like, I'm not like superhuman, I'm not indestructible, so it just makes me feel like I can't do it. What's it like having a baby during COVID? It's interesting. There's a lot of fear that I have. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fear. Me and Micah have talked a lot about like what we want to do for when Natalia is actually here, and what kind of like precautions we want to implement, and kind of guidelines for when people come over. It's definitely weird, because you don't want to have to, like, you never would think like having your family over is something that you like have to worry about. But I'm like, we're gonna limit so much of who actually gets to see her for a little while. We're probably gonna have people wear masks when they come over. It's just trying to make those decisions is tough, because things are not, I would say they're not normal, but I think this is going to be our normal for a while. Things are not how they used to be, just like a year ago even. So it's weird to navigate, because you kind of just have to make the best decisions for yourself and your family, and obviously your baby. And sometimes I get super anxious, like thinking about her being outside of me and not being inside where she's like protected from everything. Where there is not all of the germs and bacteria and people and all of that stuff. Because generally people are not very clean in America. We've seen that, given that people have had to be told how to wash their hands. Really? So, given that, and I work with the public, so I see how people are, like out and about in daily life, and it's scary. So the thought of my sweet little baby angel being out and all of that just terrifies me. So I'm probably not gonna take her out. But trying to navigate like what you do and what you don't do, and what you're going to like ask your family to do when they come over, you know, anyone who comes over, like if you're not gonna have people over, like it's a lot of stress, because I am a very big people pleaser. So I don't like to make anybody unhappy, especially people that I care about. So knowing that my decisions might make somebody else uncomfortable, that just makes me more anxious. And I know at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I'm doing what's best for my family and what I think is best for my baby, because nobody else can make those decisions for her other than her parents. So it's definitely nerve-wracking, that whole part of it. Being pregnant, it hasn't really affected that much. I think because I do go to a birth center, so I don't have to deal with a lot of the hospital restrictions, because I know a lot of hospitals, they don't let your spouse or partner go into appointments with you and stuff like that. I don't know how it is like in other places, but in Virginia, I haven't had that problem. And even when I've gone outside of the birth center to get my like anatomy scan, I had to go twice, because the first time they couldn't see her face. But both times Micah was able to go in the room with me. So I don't know if that's how it's like for every person. I know with my best friend, for I think her last couple of appointments, her husband was not allowed to go in with her. I know a lot of people are like that, but with my birth center, partners are always welcome. So he's been to every single in-person appointment. They alternate between a phone appointment and an in-person one. So even from my first like blood draw to confirm that I was pregnant, he's been at every single one, and it's never been a problem. So that hasn't really affected me. I'm like super grateful for that. So that was like definitely a pro in going like the birth center route. But like I said, the only thing that's really different, I think, with right now during like COVID for my like prenatal care has been like alternating between a phone visit. I feel like I answered that question. There might be some controversy, but where is there not controversy? So there's that. Any particular things you did to get your body ready for pregnancy? Yes. When I first started like knowing that I wanted to like get pregnant soon, I started taking a prenatal and all of that stuff, kind of upping my water, just being conscious of that. And then once we were actually like TTC, I was literally trying new stuff like pretty much every month. And every month that went by that I got a negative test, I would switch something out, try different stuff. There was some stuff that I did try for several months that I didn't really see much of a difference with, obviously, because I didn't get pregnant. But I have a whole video on what I was taking the month we actually got pregnant and stuff that I think really made a difference. So biggest things I can recommend are doing vaginal steaming, which sounds weird if you've never heard of it. Definitely look into it though, and it's in my other video. I will always do steaming from now on because it's great. So vaginal steaming, and what was the other big thing? I used Progressence Plus from Young Living, and I used a homeopathic remedy for hormonal stuff. That's all talked about in my other video, so I will try to link that below as well. It's just a lot more like information than I can spout at you at the moment. What's been the hardest part of pregnancy so far? I'm gonna do this by trimester because the first trimester and second trimester have been like extremely different on like several different levels. So first trimester, definitely the nausea. I didn't have morning sickness as bad as some people I know, but it was still bad. So I was just nauseous, like severely nauseous all the time. And I have a very hard time like actually throwing up. So I had like no relief. And also being at work, having to wear a mask, like that just made me more nauseous. And whew, I had so many food aversions. I couldn't swallow pills, like brushing my teeth, like whew, it was really bad. Nothing really helped it. I didn't try like everything out there, but there was stuff that like helped a little bit. But once I like wasn't taking stuff anymore, it really didn't make that much of a difference for me. Everyone is different. You kind of have to find what works for you. And sometimes stuff just doesn't work. That's kind of how it was with me. There was other times where I would get more sick if I didn't eat or something like that. But generally, I was like sick most of the day. At night, it was sometimes better. But sometimes even like laying down, I would have to like sit back up really quickly because I thought I was going to throw up. So it's just like that feeling of like I'm going to throw up with actually being able to throw up most of the time. I only threw up twice, and one was because I was trying to swallow a pill. Second time was because I didn't eat before getting in the car. So they weren't just like randomly I was super sick and then threw up. So as bad as it is to have to do that, you kind of get some relief sometimes. Everyone's different though. But yeah, I didn't have that at all. So I was just super nauseous from like kind of week 6, more so week 8 until I was like week 14, 15-ish. And then I would still get some waves of nausea every once in a while. So that was definitely the hardest part of the first trimester. Hands down, by far, awful. When I was in it, I'm like, maybe I just want one kid. Like, this sucks. So that was definitely the worst part of that. Second trimester, I feel like has been more mentally hard, I guess. Just because I've had like so many like little things that have prevented me from doing like as much as I'm used to. So I've had to slow down a lot, which I talk about in like some pregnancy updates. But basically, I had bad varicose veins, sciatica, which I still have, round ligament pain where I could like barely move. So just like a lot of little stuff that kept me / keeps me from doing what I'm used to doing. So that's been really challenging because it's hard to not feel like a lazy piece of trash when I can't do stuff, because I hate that. But I just kind of have to listen to my body and take it slow. And I was directed from my midwife to take it easy, do very low work stuff. So orders from my midwife. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it seriously. So yeah, that's been definitely the hardest part of the second trimester. It hasn't been like, I mean, I've had days where I'm in a lot more pain than others, but I can deal with that more than like the nausea. It's just like the mental side of it that I've had a hard time like getting over. So I'm doing a lot better now than I was like a month ago, or like, yeah, like a month ago or so, more than that. But yeah, pregnancy is hard regardless of what you're dealing with. And last question, would you ever do a water birth? Yes, I definitely would. That's not my like plan. I don't have a birth plan written down. My plan is really just to hopefully give birth at my birth center and not have a traumatic experience and make it a positive experience. That's literally my only plan, and whatever that looks like to actually get there, I'm cool with. I don't want to plan for, yeah, I'm going to do a water birth, and then I get there and I try to get in the tub and I can't stand it, because that can happen. So yeah, I don't really have a lot of plans for that. If it happens, it happens. If I'm comfortable in the water and I don't want to get out, I'll stay there and I'll probably have a water birth. But I'm not gonna like force myself to try to get something accomplished just to say that I did it. So for me, I just want to be as comfortable as possible and listen to my body, and however that plays out, I'm cool with. I'm very like go with the flow in situations, even though I have a lot of anxiety. It's weird. But yeah, that's all the questions that I have. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any other questions, you can leave them below. Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.